Hi everyone. In this video, I'm going to talk about one of the most popular functional testing tool for web services developed using SOAP and REST protocols. I'll talk about its license and distribution, give a brief description of the tool, explain which stages of testing can use SOAP UI software, its features, and finally conclude with a demo. SOAP UI has both free version and a premium version called SOAP UI Pro. The free edition is sufficient in most cases. SOAPUI is a desktop-based GUI application which is developed in Java using Swing library just like JMeter. It is very popular in enterprises to test service-oriented architecture, popularly referred to as SOA, and also representational state transfer protocol, popularly referred to as REST. In recent times, another popular tool called Postman is sharing the popularity. SOAP UI has a very simple UI that helps developers and QA engineers to quickly develop test suites and test cases for the web services developed in SOAP or REST. It also lets you easily export and import the test cases in XML format, which is useful to share the work between developers and testers. Here is a quick look at the workflow of a test execution in SOAP UI. Users create test suite and then add any number of test cases, and each of the test case contain multiple test steps and multiple assertions. One of the test suite has been created. The user can then execute the test and then generate a report for it. SOAP UI was originally developed to help the developers and QA engineers during the functional testing phase of the software development lifecycle. However, the tool was later improved to help the users run load tests and also security and compliance tests. SOAP UI boasts a lot of nice and useful features. During the functional testing phase of the software development lifecycle, drag and drop test creation and test debugging features makes it very easy for even relatively non-technical engineers to develop sophisticated test scenarios. Even though the feature set of the SOAP UI has increased since the tool was initially created, the core components of the tool remained intact thanks to its good design. The core components of this tool are designed in such a way that an experienced QA engineer will feel at home when working with this tool to create test suites. The reason for that is that the core components such as test suite, test case, and test assertion are very common terms in the world of testing. I've developed a REST API using Spring Boot framework to demonstrate the capabilities of SOAP UI tool to run functional tests. In the following demo, we will see how we can leverage the built-in features of SOAP UI to make sure that the changes made by the developer do not break the application functionality. I am on the SOAP UI downloads page, and as you can see, there are two versions available for download, and we will download and install the open source version. For this demo, I'm also going to use IntelliJ, my favorite Java API, using Spring Boot and a few customizable endpoints to demonstrate the power as SOAP UI for functional testing. Here is a structure of my Spring Boot project. It has a pom.xml file at the root of the repository, and I have defined all the required dependencies in this file. The src folder will have the actual Java code for creating the endpoints. In hello.java, I've defined two endpoints. One will simply return a string that contains hello in the response with HTTP status code 200. Another endpoint will also return the same content. However, the second endpoint will take the value in the URL path and return that as a status code. We are going to use this endpoint to test different cases in SOAP UI. Now let us head over to the SOAP UI tool that we have installed earlier. I'm going to start off by creating a brand new project. The way SOAP UI works is that we have to first add the resources that you would like to check against different test scenarios. We then have to create test suites, test cases, test steps, and test assertions. Now I'm going to create a few resources first. I'll create a resource that checks the health endpoint for the Spring Boot app. I'll specify the host name, port, and the URL path for the health endpoint, and then save it. I'll now create a resource that checks that it hits hello endpoint. I'll now specify the host name, port, and URL path for the health endpoint and then save it. I'll create a resource that checks that hits custom HTTP response endpoint. I'll again specify the host name, port, and URL path for the health endpoint and then save. I'll now start building the test suite to run functional tests against my Spring Boot app. I'll first create a test suite and name it as TS1. I'll then add the first test case to this newly created test suite and name it as TC1. After creating the test case, I'll have to add test steps to this test case. Since we are only going to validate the response code as single REST web service, we will only have to add one test step. I'll then add an assertion to this test step to validate that the response code for this test step result is 200 by checking this status code parameter and checking for 200 response code. I'll now run this test and I expect this step to fail as my application is not running on this machine, which is failing. As we can see, the test assertion failed with reason connection refused. I'll now start my Java application using the IntelliJ built-in run feature, running the application. As we can see from the logs of the Spring Boot app, the app started running on port 8080. Now let us rerun our test step in SOAPUI, and this time we are expecting that the test assertion is successful. And the test passed. We'll now add another test case to validate that the response body of the hello endpoint contains string hello. For that, I'll first create a test case and name it as TC2. I'll then add a test step to invoke the hello endpoint. I'll now add a test assertion to this step. I'll now add a test assertion to this step and I will choose content as a test assertion technique. Checking the test step. I'll now run the test. Checking for hello string. I'll now run the test and see if the test case is successful. We have seen that the test has passed for the previous test case. So far we have seen that how SOAPUI is useful for the positive test cases. What happens when a developer makes a change to the code? How will these test cases created in SOAPUI help to prevent introducing bugs into the code? Let's see an example. I'll update the code to remove a character from the response and launch the application again. This time, when the test suite is run again on the SOAPUI, the test will fail, and the developer would be able to identify the issue and make sure to fix the code. Test has failed. We have seen how SOAPUI is useful for functional testing by providing good feedback to the developer by running the pre-created tests when making changes to the code base.